It's New Year's Day 2001.
Happy New Year 2001. It's absolutely amazing.
And there's a new company in the business world.
Celebrating the future. Happy New Year from Accenture.
Most of the time, companies are formed around an idea, an invention, or a product. But in this case, a legal decision transformed the industry giant once known as Andersen Consulting into Accenture. For years, Andersen Consulting was a business unit of Arthur Andersen, one of the Big Eight accounting firms. Then, in 1989, Andersen Consulting became a separate business. Both Andersen Consulting and Arthur Andersen became part of Andersen Worldwide, companies providing separate but complementary services. Andersen Consulting thrived through the economic boom of the 1990s. So successful it became the largest consulting company of its kind. Specialists in technology, systems integration, business re-engineering, and business integration.
Part of its success came from using advertising and marketing techniques, something rarely done in the professional services industry back then. Still, some people felt the image of Andersen Consulting and its ads was at odds with the names linked to an accounting firm. Then, in 1997, Andersen Consulting charged Arthur Andersen with violating their business agreement to not expand into areas in which Andersen Consulting was already a recognized leader. Finally, Andersen Consulting filed for arbitration, seeking the business equivalent of divorce.
After almost 3 years in arbitration, a decision was announced on August 7, 2000. CEO Joe Forehand translated the ruling for his 75,000 employees in a worldwide webcast.
Effective immediately, we are a separate and independent entity from Arthur Andersen and Andersen Worldwide. The new chapter of our future has begun.
Joe Forehand declared the arbitration ruling a victory, but it was independence at a price. And the company had to stop using the Andersen name by the end of the year. That meant finding a new name to replace the one it had spent 10 years and an estimated $7 billion building. In a company-wide broadcast shortly after the arbitration, the challenge was defined by Managing Director Jim Murphy, whose global marketing and communications organization would lead the effort.
We have 4 basic objectives. We have to reposition the firm in the marketplace to reflect our new vision, our new strategy, which you know so much about. We need to transfer the unique and powerful brand equity that we have in Andersen Consulting, and those 2 words, to the new name we're going to pick. And obviously we have to announce the new name and swiftly raise its awareness so it's connected to the organization that we are. Fourth, we need also to eliminate any residual confusion between ourselves and Arthur Andersen, no matter what they do with the Andersen name.
And the new name had to be in place by January 1, 2001, a 147-day window that created a virtually unprecedented challenge. Rebranding projects of this scale typically take 2 to 3 times longer.
Was it possible at all that we could get all the legal trademarking issues behind us and get a name that was trademarked in 47 countries, as well as rebranding everything by that January 1 deadline?
Teresa Pogampo's advertising and brand management team had already begun investigating the challenge of new names for the company before the arbitration. With so much at stake, the quest for a new name quickly became the entire company's focus. An employee initiative helped generate internal interest and buy-in.
We had, I think, 2,500 candidate names from employees, and they couldn't just enter a name. They had to write a 25-word essay on why it fit the strategy of the firm. So it was also an educational process to educate people about the strategy of the business, because we're changing the strategy. So we used it in many, many ways, not just to change the name, but to also change our employees' thinking about the company.
2,000 employees worked directly on the rebranding project. Outside the company, there were 25 law firms in 49 countries, advertising agency Young & Rubicam, and branding firm Landor Associates, who helped narrow the list of names down.
If a name isn't able to get past a legal hurdle because it may be confusingly similar to another name in the marketplace, Or perhaps there's a native speaker challenge that the name means something obscene or inappropriate in a target language.
The obvious one that everybody is concerned about is something slipping through the cracks, so we'll come up with something that means your mother is a hamster in French.
Right now, there's over 9.5 million .coms registered. That number increases every single day. In fact, over 15,000 are registered every day. That comes out to 1 every second. So in the time I've been talking, another 30, 40, 50 .coms have already been registered. In fact, right now, over 98% of the dictionary is registered as a .com, and the other 2% you probably wouldn't want as your corporate name.
While lawyers conducted trademark and internet checks, market research calls tested feedback on names with senior executive target audience members. Meanwhile, the company began rolling out Phase 1 of its rebranding advertising. A teaser advertising campaign created by Young and Rubicam set the stage for change.
We didn't want to continue to promote Anderson Consulting because that was going away, but we didn't want to lose our presence in the marketplace. So we came up with an approach where we started to show that the brand was going away.
And the idea was tearing through our old signature in the corner of the ad and typing in redefined, reborn, renamed 010101.
Which was our launch date. But coincidentally, 010101 has a great resonance in the computer business because it's digitized. So it fit our client base.
Finding a new name was a top priority, and so were efforts to reposition the company.
In many ways, the arbitrator did us a big favor because we eventually would have had to change the name because of the marketplace confusion. We had to do it in 147 days. So in many ways, we couldn't have done it without that kind of deadline.
We also took that as an opportunity to tell a bigger story, to say, we're going to change our name and you're going to be excited because we're offering more and broader services that you might not be aware of right now.
After weeks of meetings in London, Miami, and New York, 5,000 names were reduced to 51.
All of these names were knocked out for one reason or another. A lot of names with the word future.
And then narrowed to 29 finalists, which were presented at the 2000 annual partners meeting.
You just saw our new name. The problem is, we don't know which one it is yet.
But by October, with the deadline less than 2 months away, the executive committee chose Accenture, a name submitted by an employee in Oslo, Norway.
And everybody, the executive committee liked it, so we decided on it this morning.
I was told 2 days ago that I was one of 30. Yesterday I got a phone call that I was one of 3 candidates, and I was asked to pack my bags, and that's what I did.
I am so pleased to share with you the new name of our firm. It's Accenture. And Accenture was actually submitted by one of our people.
I basically thought of some exciting words that encompass what we are as a firm and hopefully what we want to be in the future. I thought of words like accomplishment, words like accessibility to our clients, our people, accelerating into the future. I then thought of all the excitement that we are trying to create and the adventure, the trip going into the future. So tying those elements together, I came up with the word accenture.
The name was announced to the media, and the initial feedback was positive. Now the countdown to the launch of the brand itself began. Landor Associates created a new logo for Accenture. The design was a simple one. The name Accenture was written in lowercase with the symbol for greater than positioned above the letter T. That was meant to convey the feeling of moving forward into the future.
This isn't just about changing some ads. We have to change signage, calling cards, databases, relationship with suppliers, how we recruit, what universities say about us.
Coordinating the change out of about 400 servers in less than 24 hours in a coordinated effort around the world. So it's fairly significant, and the risk is pretty high.
The January 1st launch was a series of multi-continent multimedia events, and because of the time zones, it was also all day. Down came the old Anderson Consulting website, flags, nameplates, office signs. Up went the new Accenture logo, splashed on buses and trams, wrapped around buildings and newspapers, spelled out in lights and on blimps. The new commercials not only pushed the new name but also played up the company's new positioning. Taglines consistently carried the words consulting, technology, outsourcing, alliances, and venture capital. A month later, a new campaign followed called Now It Gets Interesting.
The perspective is that despite the incredible changes of the past few years brought on by technology, even more incredible changes lie ahead. But capturing them will be far more difficult than it has been or than it was in the early dot-com era. The campaign is meant to present Accenture as having the unique capabilities required to help our clients capitalize on those incredible opportunities.
The new commercials debuted during the Super Bowl and aired during the winter months when television sports viewing is typically the highest.
We know by traffic to accenture.com in the early days, the volume of traffic to accenture.com was extraordinary and exceeded any level of traffic we had under our former name. So the interest that was being driven from the advertising and other things that we were doing was driving traffic to accenture.com so we could tell the fuller story, which is a huge advantage.
Less than 2 years into its new life, Accenture has already embarked on another advertising campaign. This one is called I Am Your Idea.
And I Am Your Idea is a creative approach of the idea talking to someone, saying, I'm your idea, let's get with it and go execute it. And of course, who can execute it best? Accenture.
Rebranding any company is generally expensive. For a business that sells professional services, it can be even more costly.
We really are adapting our product constantly to serve the market that we're trying to sell to, and so it's sort of different every time that we actually go to market with that product. So it poses different challenges. The audience also is extremely different. It's very narrow. It's very specialized in that it's senior executives at some of the largest organizations in the world. So it's a very refined set of people with a refined sensibility and need set, and so you have to be very conscious of that and very focused on that.
Accenture spent $175 million in total to rebrand itself. A large amount of that was spent on advertising, marketing, and research.
Today, 1 out of 2 people know our name unaidedly, and that's nearly the same level that it was for Anderson Consulting. So if you think about the extraordinary task that was at hand, we nearly have achieved 100% of the awareness that we had prior to the name change.
Jim Murphy says the rebranding experience will be a model for others in the consulting industry.
And the Big Five, or Big Four, whatever's left, are going to have to rebrand all the consulting businesses because they're being spun off. And they won't be able to use their historic names. So PricewaterhouseCoopers, Ernst & Young, etc., all have to come up with new names. So branding in this category is going to continue to be a big issue.
And as the Accenture experience shows, finding a new name is just the beginning. Repositioning a global brand today, you need good research, creative marketing, big budgets, and awareness of the next business trends. For the Pearson Video Library, I'm Alice Look, Business Now.